Hi everyone, this is Jason Zach from Nathaniel School of Music. In this lesson, we are going to look at 10 piano hacks, as I call them, or quick fixes to improve your posture or your overall technique on the instrument, or in simple words, just to get a good sound out of your piano, be a lot more relaxed, be a lot more fluid in your playing, and just enjoy yourself and your music a lot more. And hopefully, then the audience also will. So, I've divided the hacks, if you will, for two challenges or two technical challenges. The two technical challenges that we face on any musical instrument would be, first of all, for your body. Your body is a bit tense or it's paining, muscles are fatigued, and so on and so forth. And then the body has two types of muscles, so to speak. I don't know much about it, but all I will say is you have the big muscles and you have the small muscles. Big muscles provide stability, namely your core, your back, your shoulder. Your small muscles would be for all the tactile control and the hammer like impact, which will involve, I guess, your forearm, your wrist, and of course your fingers, which are the final hit point, or the hammers of the piano, if you will. Okay, so we divide our talk with the body as well as the mind, because the mind plays a huge part not only for the piano but with so many musical instruments. And every musical instrument you should probably approach with either a different mindset, or if you get deeper into how the mind would work. So, when we get into the mental side of things, every instrument would be different, the piano, the trumpet. So, you kind of need to wear the hat, or you need to be the character of the pianist, which is you, of course. So, you might have to even change your personality a bit. Well, I don't want to scare you, but just basic things about the mind and how you can train your brain to just play the piano a bit better. So, a few things on the body side of things and a few things on the mental side of things. So, before we get started, it'll be nice if you can consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the bell for regular notifications. Check out the description for related videos, and obviously visit our channel and nathanielschool.com's free tutorial sections for a lot more organized videos, because in YouTube we've done a lot of them, so it'll be organized better on our website. Okay, without any delay, let's get cracking. First off, how do you work with your bigger muscles when you play the piano? First off, engage your core. Now, a lot of instruments like the trumpet, horn instruments, you can let me know in the comments if you play a trumpet or any of these instruments. You generally need to engage your core, and it's almost, the way I think about it, is almost like a boxing match where someone's about to punch you and you kind of tighten, you brace yourself, so to speak, as they say sometimes in flights also. So engage your core, not all the time, but it's always good, especially when you and sit upright. So if you play with a chair or with a computer chair, you don't want to slouch, because if you slouch, you're going to drop your shoulder, you're going to disengage the core, and you're going to deactivate your back as well. So activate your back, engage your core, and use your shoulder for balance. You should be able to sit like this for a good amount of time and play, because now I'm supported by the big muscles. So this itself, a lot of students say, I'm getting a lot of pain while playing the piano, my wrist is hurting, my fingers are hurting. Well, maybe because you haven't engaged the big muscles in the first place. So that is my advice number one: engage the core, activate the back, and use your shoulder for support and balance. The next thing, especially when you play arpeggios and chords, would be the wrist. So try to float your wrist to distribute stress and the energy. So what will happen is, if you do this with your wrist when you play rather than play like this, see, you might be able to see it if you observe. Now this is me playing with the wrist, and this is me playing with actually the shoulder. See, now this doesn't look so obvious when you play. It won't even look obvious if you watch a YouTube video with a teacher teaching from a top angle. You can't really see the other muscles. So if I take a chord, let's say a D minor. So right now I'm playing it in a very sort of stressful way, because I'm using my shoulder And if I play this faster, you'll see the problem. It's almost like an electric shock for my hand. While if I want the same speed with no pain and with more musicality, you'll see that the wrist is floating around. So pa 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 pa. So I'm almost looking at it as each is an action. It's almost like I'm faking a downstroke and an upstroke from a guitar player, so to speak. Pa 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 pa. Or let's say a wind player might do tu 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 to get a sound out, or the wind player might make it more efficient by doing and you get these fast, lip trills and all that with a flute or a trumpet or a melodica, whatever it might be. You can't really do that because it's one action. But if I divide that action into these micro movements with the wrist, it's going to be very, very helpful, especially for pain in the weaker muscles, the forearm, the wrist, the fingers. And you're not going to really use your shoulder much when you do this. So your shoulders supporting, but what did I say earlier? Engage the bigger muscles. And it's the same when playing arpeggios. Let's say I want to do that. I'm playing with my forearm. You see, everything is tense. You'll find there's a lot of issues happening here. But if I play this with the wrist and just pushing it, sometimes I could even push it up and down. I could even push it sideways. Some form of wrist motion would be helpful, and you will feel that, you can play that particular arpeggio for a long, long time, and look at the speed you get. Okay? You also get a lot more dynamics along the way. Yes, it does hurt. It is a physical challenge to play the piano for sure, but you're never going to get speed if you play with this electric shock kind of approach, which is where you just use your shoulder for everything and you don't realize that you even have a wrist, and it's going to really hurt your forearm. So float your wrist to distribute stress and energy. Then the next thing I would suggest with respect to the wrist would be to turn your wrist to play or activate the weaker fingers. Now, just like, opening a doorknob, using a doorknob to open a door, see, the pinky is pretty weak. We know that. And if I just do that, it's very tricky because, to be honest, I think all of these fingers are connected to each other. So it's going to be very tough. See, when I move the pinky, all these other fingers are also moving. The ring, kind of the middle as well. If I move the ring, the pinky moves. I can't really control that. See, it's very tough. So you need additional power for the weaker fingers. That'll come by turning your wrist like this, sort of like you're opening a door. So if you want let's say an octave, so instead of hitting it like kind of you're playing karate or something, you don't want to cut the key. Rather, you want to, this is very important for the left hand, so you get these effects. And again, all of the hacks I'm trying to tell you are to play faster, to play without pain, to play with a lot more control, and then a lot more musicality also comes out of it. So this is all to actually make the sound better. But first off, we need to play with less pain. So especially things like disco. So I have to turn my wrist to get that pinky moving. And you'll have to do this for a gig, which is, I don't know, an hour or two. So you need to get your muscles working correctly. So turn the wrist is hack number 2. The next thing would be efficient finger positioning. So efficient finger positioning, a few things, a few sub tips. First off, whenever you play a black note or a black chord like this, it starts on a black note rather. Let's say E flat major. Try to turn your thumb. So if you're playing maybe a E minor, now E flat major. Check that out. My thumb is straight for the white starting chord, But for the black chord, I'm turning it. It'll give you a lot more reach and a lot more speed. And it also keeps your wrist, your overall hand position straight, as opposed to like that, Of course, I'm exaggerating, but the whole elbow now has to come closer to the body, and it's just a pointless jerk like motion, which is going to hurt your hand in the long run. So to avoid this, you can go turn your thumb, almost like you're giving a thumbs up or something. See? Okay, and then tall fingers. What are the tall fingers? These three guys. All the tall fingers should be at the edge. Edge meaning just at the point where the black notes are linking up with the white notes, which is here. So if you're playing GAB, play it here. Don't play it here. Also, the more inside you go, the tougher it is to play, because of physics, it's tougher to play a key at this point rather than this point. But don't play it at the edge, play it somewhere here. So this is the sweet spot for your taller fingers. And last but not least, in the world of finger positioning, it would be playing with your fingertips. So you don't want to play with the finger and then bring this part of the finger down by kind of dropping this joint or this knuckle, So don't drop this part, this knuckle. Rather, head on. Once you hit a key, the knuckle stays in position. Don't break it down. The moment you bring this knuckle down, it's going to definitely add stress to the entire hand, your wrist, your forearm. It's all hurting if you play like this. But if you play like this, as you can see, there is no stress on the other parts of the hand. Okay, so that's about the finger positioning. Turn the thumb when you go to the black note, tall fingers at the edge of between the black and white around here, and finally all fingertips should be ready. And the last thing from a technique point of view would be to experiment with furniture. Now, with respect to your furniture, the distance between your chair or your stool and the piano is extremely crucial. So a person who uses, let's say, the keyboard in my room, he or she might prefer here, but I prefer where I'm sitting right now. So this distance between my chair or stool and the instrument is very crucial. Also, don't use a chair with an armrest, because the armrest will automatically prevent your elbow from moving if you have to do an arpeggio or if you have to access the entire piano. Because when you cover the top end, you're waving the piano. You're trying to do this kind of motion. You don't want to play like that. So avoid chairs with armrest, or get a foldable armrest chair if possible. That would be helpful. Also, ironically enough, when it comes to furniture and all these other things, do you even need a chair? To be honest, whenever I play concerts for long hours, yeah, it's tough to play 3-4 hours with standing, but actually standing is better on your arms and your hands. It just makes it a lot more freer, a lot more easier for me to play. And you'll find a lot of rock keyboardists like Jordan Rudess doing it in any case. And he plays even classical music standing. I've seen him do that. It's incredible. So there's no problem in probably a sit-stand desk arrangement like what I have here. So sometimes while practicing, I'll just raise the desk up, stand and play. And sit-stand desks are kind of becoming a thing in today's world where, everyone works from home, or a lot of people do stuff at home. So the sit-stand thing might be very useful for piano, because for guitar, you can easily just sit and stand because you have a strap. Piano, it has to be on a table or a furniture. So rather than have a keyboard stand like what we always do, or a proper wooden furniture like contraption, why not a simple sit-stand desk? Let me know in the comments. So moving on to more of the mental side of things, of course the mental side will control the sound of the piano, and also start with you as a person, your mind and your uh, confidence level also to play the instrument. This plays a huge role for technique. The first thing which I tell my students is, are you focusing on your breathing? From time to time, it's always good to take a step back with whatever work you're doing, be it an exercise or a song that you're really struggling with, working hard for, nailing it. And you just have to take a step back and just see, can I play the same thing slowly but just by breathing? And you'll realize if you can't, it means that you need to practice a bit more, and you might also want a break. And also, while playing music, to improve the sound quality of what you're playing, breathing just naturally adds to the dynamics. For example, if I play a minor arpeggio, something like this. This is without really focusing on breathing. In fact, I'm just breathing because I have to. But if I now breathe in and breathe out and think about that from a time perspective, breathe in for this many beats, breathe out for the same amount of beats, it kind of improves. Now, you could look at breathing randomly, or you could look at breathing specifically in a time based manner. And generally, when you breathe in, you tend to play a bit louder, at least I tend to. And when you breathe out, you tend to relax a bit more, and then the volume gets softer. So it's a nice crescendo, decrescendo, or auto crescendo, decrescendo volume control dynamics just by simple breathing. The next thing seems to be very obvious or old school, but it's very important. So if you're practicing an exercise, or if you're practicing a song, whatever it might be, the most important thing is to push your mind, you could say, to the limit. You need to stress it out like a gym workout. It shouldn't be easy, for sure. Push it to the limit, see where it can go. But if it's kind of stagnating, or if you feel that you're actually getting worse, the first thing you should do is just take a break. Just stop playing, do something else, watch TV, go to the balcony, walk your dog, do whatever you need to do. Forget about what you're doing, because there's so many other things to do in life, right? It's just a piano exercise. So take a break, and the best break you might want to take for yourself is just don't do it for the whole day. Do something else. Listen to a few songs and then redo it in the morning. Because what happens is, it's not your conscious brain which is working. It's also the subconscious brain which will work, I feel, when you sleep or when you relax or when you take the break, because you're giving that brain, the other side of the brain, the opportunity to process the information better, right? And also organize the data better in your brain, if you will. Okay. The third thing is the general issue of doubting or judging ourselves when we play anything. In my opinion, because of all this adrenaline which happens when you play an instrument and do a few things in life, music is one of those things which gives you that rush or that high, if you want to call it that. It's wrong to judge yourself when you're in the heat of the moment, playing the piano, playing, whatever your exercise is. So some people might end up being overly positive. Some people might be very negative, and you might think that, oh, everything I'm doing is wrong. Maybe it's actually damn good. So again, judge yourself in the morning. Take a break, have a good night's sleep, and record yourself playing. You can probably use your phone's voice memo app or whatever it might be. Record yourself and then judge in the morning, and you'll think, okay, maybe there's a few things I can improve, or wow, it actually sounded pretty good. I would love to share that. Or you might even, there are few days when I listen back to what I jammed on the previous night, and in the morning I feel I've composed something which I didn't even know that I did it yesterday. It just happened. So that's very important from a judging point of view. The other thing is your routine for practice itself. We all practice the piano, but do we have a routine? In some cases, your lifestyle doesn't allow you to have a routine, but you can look at creating at least, what in my opinion, a respectful environment for yourself, or unheard of environments sometimes. So for example, I have practiced the piano during sound check for a gig. As the show's happening, your carpenter's doing his thing. That actually, if you put your headphones on, it's a nice time to play the piano because you're there, your instrument is ready. And also, after a show, a lot of us after a show probably are tired, go home, party or whatever it may be. Post a concert is actually a great time to practice because you're very well warmed up, your muscles are ready. Why not just put an hour into it? And a respectful practice environment doesn't have to be a quiet studio room, soundproof, you know blah 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 and so on. It can even be in and around your kitchen or in a busy hall with everyone talking. It's about what you make for it. And in my case, since I am kind of a rather difficult, I tend to take a lot of time to get into a zone while practicing, into a very kind of dedicated zone. I need to pin myself to the piano. So one hack I found is just watch some TV. And let's say there's a cricket match going on, you just watch the game and just play, rather than saying, oh, I have to practice piano 1 hour, that's all I should do. For all you know, you won't even get started. You'll do 5 minutes and then move on to something else. So a TV might help, cartoons, news channel, and some cricket. Why not? Try it. Let me know what you think in the comments. And last but not least, I get the feeling as I go through music, one consistent thing which has happened to me through my journey is when you least expect it, it won't happen all the time. Maybe once a week, if you practice hard, music just seems to come to you, and that point you should know that, yeah, it is a day where you have to capitalize because you are in the zone of things. Music has kind of got you into its web and you need to give it all that you got. So if your friends are inviting you for a movie or whatever it might be, you have to say no, or you just have to practice. You kind of become another person. You feel very passionate about your art form at that particular point in time. So generally, if you play piano for about 4 to 5 days a week, the odds are very high that one of those days you are going to be in the zone. So when that happens, it might happen unfortunately, at 11 p.m. in the night, and you're like, okay, I have to have my dinner or whatever it might be. If you're in the zone, try to push for an extra half an hour, 45 minutes, or even 1 hour, and it'll give you results in the long run because practice time is crucial. But there are some things about music practice which you can't control. Like you just feel like you're playing 10x better a certain point in the week. So capitalize when that happens to you. So yeah, that's about some technical hacks. And for the mind and the body, I've given you 5 for the body, 5 for the mind. Do check out some of our other posture videos where we specifically talk about the wrist position, in general, piano exercises to improve dexterity, hand coordination, and a lot of other things. And if you're watching this and you don't know what your skill level is, you might want to go to our website, head over to the free tutorial section where you can filter lessons that you'd like to learn at whichever level, and maybe even a topic that you'd wish to learn. It's segregated very well there. And do consider supporting us on our Patreon. And if you like the lesson, and if you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon for regular notifications. Thanks a ton for watching the lesson. Cheers.